totally resourceful. I mean, think about this. Nick Sirianni gets 2 picks, a 27-yard punt by the Niners. George Kittle gets hurt. You're at home. And this year, in the second half, all year, Philadelphia averages 9 points in the second half, including the playoffs. 26th in the league. 26th in second half yards. There's no creativity. And I think Philadelphia, like a poorly coached team, is getting worse over time. I mean, I'm the one thing I'll say about Philly is that their run defense was great, but that's Vic Fangio. Everything I liked about the Eagles was Vic Fangio. Think about this. San Francisco's 6 highest paid players missed 60% of the snaps. How in the hell are they 13-5? How are they winning these games? And I've been critical of Brock Purdy, but you know what? Short memory, couple of bad picks, one really bad, did not matter. Great final drive, big throws, didn't have George Kittle second quarter on, didn't always have the greatest protection. There was pressure. And let's be honest about Jalen Hurts. He's pretty consistently ineffective in the pocket. Greg Cosell's been telling us for years. Tom Brady on the broadcast said it. Why are you rolling out? He's rolling out because he can't see because he's too small. And so, again, the playoffs to me are about Shanahan and Robert Saleh. I mean, Shanahan's a wizard. That opening drive, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What was that? And that trick play wasn't like a hook and lateral in the red zone. That's a big boy trick play. Reverses, receiver throwing deep. For 3.5 hours, you saw coaching. Whenever a coach makes like $15 million a year, people are like, whoa, coaching's overrated. Exhibit A of why it's not. That was a coaching mismatch. One coach was Chat GPT and the other was crayons. That wasn't even close.
Absolutely. You know, it's quite an interesting situation. The commentary surrounding Tom Brady's critique of Jalen Hurts is somewhat amusing, particularly because Collins highlighted that point while simultaneously commending Hurts repeatedly during the game for making exceptional throws that were, quite literally, dropped by receivers. He was making statements like, "You invest all this capital in your wide receivers. They have to make those catches." He also pointed out Caleb Williams for a similar issue of prematurely abandoning the pocket. To single out and hyper-focus that critique solely on Jalen Hurts is to present a perspective that lacks balance. But yes, the more compelling narrative is debating between San Francisco's coaching and Philadelphia's collapse. My view is it's squarely split down the middle. It's a genuine 50-50 proposition. Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers merit an enormous amount of acclaim. I intend to create a dedicated video about the 49ers, hopefully right after this one. Let's be perfectly clear. Last season, the 49ers were decimated by injuries and failed to even reach the postseason. This year, Tom and Yi were significantly injured, yet they not only qualified for the playoffs, but also won. Has Shanahan undergone a magical transformation? Has Brock Purdy become magically different? Christian McCaffrey also missed a substantial number of games this season. So what's the distinguishing factor? The factor is that sustaining elite performance year after year after year is extraordinarily difficult. Consider the Los Angeles Rams. They won the Super Bowl in 2021, missed the playoffs in 2022, were eliminated in the wild card round in 2023, and then lost to the Philadelphia Eagles the following year. They beat the Minnesota Vikings in a game where Sam Darnold's performance fell off a cliff, then were defeated by the Eagles. We'll see what this year holds for them. That reality underscores the challenge of consistent greatness and victory. This is precisely why organizations like the Patriots and the Chiefs deserve such recognition. People also overlook that the Eagles reached the Super Bowl in the 2022 season, the playoffs in 2023, the Super Bowl again in 2024, and the playoffs in 2025. To expect this team to consistently advance to Super Bowls or NFC Championship games annually is to demand a level of sustained success that is fundamentally rare in the NFL. When you do witness that continuity, it signifies something special: exceptional coaching, quarterback performance, and overall organizational stability, wherever you choose to attribute that excellence. The most persistent issue plaguing the Eagles has been a lack of coaching continuity, an absence of stability in the coaching staff. I've already produced an entire video concerning Jalen Hurts. Definitely review that if you can. I forget the exact title, but it's along the lines of Jalen Hurts was robbed of his moment of greatness. In it, I argue that Hurts was leading the Philadelphia Eagles to a comeback victory, much like we witnessed other quarterbacks accomplish over the weekend, but he was deprived of that opportunity because A.J. Brown dropped a pass and his offensive linemen literally stopped playing on a critical drive. On one pivotal drive, Jalen Hurts took a sack when he was on the verge of breaking free for a 10 to 15-plus yard run, which would have positioned them within 8 yards, potentially even scoring a touchdown on that final possession with under a minute left in the fourth quarter. He was tackled from behind because Lane Johnson simply ceased his effort on the play. Okay, there's 1:26 remaining on the clock. The play develops over 3 seconds. This occurred after A.J. Brown had already dropped a pass. Jalen Hurts is poised to sprint through that lane. There's no defender in sight. He gains at least 10 yards. He at least picks up the first down, placing the ball inside the 10-yard line with a minute remaining and all 3 timeouts. But as you observe, number 74, Johnson just halts. He's completely flat-footed and abandons the play. Consequently, look, he isn't even using his hands anymore. He simply stops. He appears to think the play is over. I cannot comprehend his actions. Because of that, Jalen Hurts gets tackled from behind. He navigates between the other 2 defensive players with the aid of his blockers in that lane and is brought down from behind. That specific moment is the razor-thin margin between winning and losing. Therefore, on one hand, Shanahan and Brock Purdy deserve immense praise and credit, and I will certainly give them their due. However, the reality is that if the Eagles receivers secure those catches, if the Eagles complete that comeback and win the game, the narrative becomes, wow, Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions, and what in the world was Shanahan doing? If Christian McCaffrey doesn't make that spectacular catch on the trick play, an unbelievable reception, the outcome could be different. The reality of this game, and Chad is brilliant, I consider him one of the premier coaches, is that the 49ers players rose to the occasion. They made the critical plays. They made the catches. Brock Purdy utilized his mobility effectively. So, even when they suffered a poor punt or committed costly interceptions, examining the Philadelphia Eagles' performance reveals they did not make those pivotal plays. Their kicker missed an extra point, which later would have meant needing only a field goal to tie the game. Then you're looking at overtime, or perhaps with 3 timeouts, you kick that field goal and then attempt a defensive stop. The game unfolds differently, likely heading to overtime. But they simply did not execute the plays when it mattered most. That is the definitive difference between winning and losing. It becomes the deciding factor. You can apply this lens to the entire playoff weekend. Did you make the plays when they mattered most? Yes or no? To start the weekend, the Rams? Yes. They made the plays. The Bears? Yes. Did the Packers when it mattered most? No. Did the Panthers? No. Result: loss, loss, win, win. The Jaguars and the Bills? Did the Bills make the plays? Yes. The Jaguars? No. So that's the core issue. We can discuss coaching, and I am arguably one of the most vocal proponents of highlighting coaching importance. I was among the very few analysts last offseason who stated my primary concern was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. This was before we had any indication of how the season would unfold. I identified that as my biggest concern. Although this wasn't even his worst performance, Kevin Patullo, and that's why I conducted a comprehensive analysis in another video, which I'll avoid repeating here. This particular game wasn't terrible from a coaching standpoint. It wasn't elevated, but it wasn't disastrous. The opportunities were present. The plays were schemed effectively, but ultimately, the players did not rise to the occasion. Regarding Jalen Hurts, and this is where he deserves significant understanding, though he had a moment where he could have compensated for earlier issues with the play I just illustrated, he is simply not utilizing his mobility sufficiently. Every other prominent quarterback in the NFL currently leverages their running ability. Jalen Hurts, curiously, is not. Again, I perceive this as a disconnect stemming from coaching and a lack of trust within the offensive system. And again, Colin can reference Tom Brady discussing pocket presence, but it's an inconsistent argument. Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, they're all of similar height. Patrick Mahomes. So this notion that every other quarterback is 6'7" and Jalen Hurts is 5'8", I genuinely don't follow that logic. There are simply no easy opportunities, 0 layups, within this Philadelphia Eagles offense. Allow Tom Brady's explanation. A coordinator must create numerous layups for his players. Effective offensive coordinators generate easy throws for their quarterbacks. You shouldn't have to thread the needle on every single pass. You need schemes where receivers are wide open, creating a larger margin of error for a significant portion of the throws. That is the objective of an offensive coordinator. How can we devise route concepts or run schemes to provide our players a slight advantage? The reality is, if you don't provide that advantage, I'd compare it to golf. Would you prefer to hit a 3-iron or 4-iron into a green, or would you rather hit a pitching wedge? Over time, the player consistently hitting pitching wedges while their opponent is hitting long irons gains a substantial advantage. The elite coordinators, like Liam, though he's a head coach, he calls plays, such as Kyle Shanahan, Josh McDaniels, or Sean Payton, these individuals are effectively hitting sand wedges into the greens. That's the goal. Subsequently, the quarterback must play a role in that process. As a quarterback matures, you begin to collaborate with your coordinator. These are the concepts I excel at. This is what I'm confident in. You become an extension of the coaching staff. That's when an offense truly begins to operate at peak efficiency. That is a significant component because Jalen Hurts lacks the coaching continuity even to engage in those discussions, let alone having a coordinator capable of providing this team with those easy opportunities. Frankly, it's not solely about Jalen Hurts. It involves Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown. I strongly encourage you to watch that other video as I analyze games from the Packers, Bears, and Rams, demonstrating example after example of layup plays. Even simple elements like checkdowns that can lead to far more productive gains. So continuing to argue that Jalen Hurts can't see is, quite frankly, a simplistic and lazy take. It's entirely reductive. Mentioning that even Tom Brady called you out ignores that Tom Brady wasn't criticizing Jalen Hurts throughout the game. He merely noted he left the pocket too soon on one specific play, something quarterbacks do constantly. This is what's staggering. Consider all the quarterbacks who committed turnovers. Matthew Stafford threw an interception and should have had another, saved by Puka Nacua. If Nacua doesn't make that play, as his team acknowledges, the Los Angeles Rams lose to the Carolina Panthers. Would the narrative then be that Matthew Stafford was too reckless? Probably not. Trevor Lawrence threw multiple interceptions, and they lost to the Buffalo Bills. Justin Herbert had multiple turnovers. Brock Purdy, multiple interceptions. Drake May, multiple turnovers. Caleb Williams, multiple turnovers. Then there's the one quarterback who didn't turn the ball over, who protected possession, who made precise throws to his receivers. Again, referencing Tom Brady himself. If you're going to cite his criticism, you must also acknowledge his praise, stating that Jalen Hurts was delivering perfect A-plus throws that were then dropped. There were 7 dropped passes. A.J. Brown had 3 himself. Saquon Barkley had a drop. Devonta Smith had a drop. That's 5 right there. From superstar players. If they simply catch 2 of those, they likely win. It's reminiscent of when Josh Allen, against the Kansas City Chiefs in 2023, made 2 beautiful long throws, 60-yard daggers, that were dropped, one notably by Stephon Diggs. That is crushing. It's the difference between winning and losing. When your margin for error is that slender, such failures are devastating. Conversely, you observe what a Shanahan can provide for his offense. Even when his quarterback commits turnovers, they can widen that margin of error. But let's be unequivocal. Shanahan, as Collins highlighted recently, had a record of like 1 or 2 wins forever when trailing in the second half and in the fourth quarter. So, there are always complications. There are always constraints. No one is ever completely flawless. What I find intriguing, and I noted this in the comment section, is that there will be a pile-on directed at the Philadelphia Eagles currently. They went to the Super Bowl, made the playoffs, won the Super Bowl, reached the playoffs again, and now they've lost. The implicit question is, are we expecting them to win Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl? Obviously not. The Rams didn't achieve that. The 49ers haven't. The Bills haven't. The Ravens haven't. The Bengals haven't. So, it's consistently perplexing to me that a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, or a player like Jalen Hurts, when they don't win, somehow attracts more negativity and criticism than other franchises that have not even reached a Super Bowl. That's the disconnect. I am genuinely eager to see what General Manager Howie Roseman does with this offense and coaching staff because numerous options exist, and owner Jeffrey Lurie is willing to invest financially. He can attract talent, and people want to come to Philadelphia. It's quite ironic to hear discussions about the offense being limited or about Jalen Hurts, yet Saquon Barkley wanted to be in Philly. Devonta Smith is in Philly. A.J. Brown, I know dynamics have shifted slightly, wanted to come to and remain in Philadelphia. I promise you, his primary frustration lies more with coaching than anything else. I assure you of that. The players are captivated by Philadelphia. Players are enthralled with Philly. Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they genuinely cherish being in Philadelphia. Yet, there's often an attempt to paint a picture of toxicity or dysfunction in Philly. If that were accurate, no one would desire to be there. Consider which players can't wait to depart, who can't wait to exit Cleveland, who can't wait to leave Dallas. Just stating an observation. But those are my perspectives. I am genuinely eager to hear yours. What are your thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles? What do you believe is the more significant storyline, San Francisco's coaching or Philadelphia's collapse? Share your opinions in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you concur or disagree with me. Regardless, let's engage in some discussions. Let's have some debates, but ultimately, let's simply enjoy the discourse. Please consider subscribing. We are cultivating an incredible community here, and would absolutely love for you to be part of it. I aim to build something we all feel connected to, something we're genuinely excited to participate in. I believe we are well on our path to achieving that. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it significantly assists with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.